we have to come back to the most important question. What is it actually? Decentralized identity, blockchain, and big data. How far are we from the progress? How good are we going with it? What's the deal with it? Let's start from something simple and then we actually start heating up the conversation. I will be picking some questions to make you confused a little bit, to make you feel a little bit uncomfortable, like out of your seat, let's say like this.
The way we love it.
So gentlemen, who starts?
Yeah, I first.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. I recently read the news that China wants to promote smart city identification with the help of blockchain solutions. And many other countries and companies think about the bundle: identification, reputation, IoT, blockchain. But in my opinion, that only one question we should ask ourselves is why? Why are we trying to identify a new through the old? I mean, today all rating systems are based on the subject or object. There is a human passport, a technical passport, and various certificates for devices, some regulations, some rules for cities, and so on. But the whole system is outdated a long time ago. My point of view, blockchain's philosophy and philosophy of decentralization in general dictates different conditions. Maybe скажем так, it is the transactional reputation that is important. Okay, for example, Brazil. Brazil has somehow built a well-considered capital, but people refuse to live in it. Which means that this city was not accepted transactionally. Yes? Oh, I mean yes. Okay, a person have a lot of regalia, and the device can be the most expensive in the world. But if neither of them is used by anybody, then the price of the achievements is a penny, is zero. Mm-hmm. Yes?
Okay.
Yes. Okay, I'm from Russia, and we got used to brag about the Tsar king in English. The Tsar canon, which has not fight. The Tsar bell, which has never caught. The Tsar tank, which has not gone anywhere. And we have the biggest territory in the world, almost a planet, but most of which is hardly used. It is very bad transactional reputation. Mm-hmm. Okay, I am convinced that transactional reputation is the future. It is the basis for the monetization of social capital for people, and technological capital for devices.
Right.
And I don't believe that it can be solved through someone else's recommendations, instructions, and even more so through prohibitions. Mm-hmm. Only the living interaction of decentralized, distributed, some part of centralized systems. Okay, summarizing the topic of our panel discussion, we must understand that the rules created from above will lead us to digital totalitarianism, and the interactive of different systems is evolution. And I wait with bated breath that people will understand this simple truth. That's all. Okay.
Okay. Okay. So my actual emphasis here, allow me to like dig in a little bit further. I'll speak from my perspective as well and see if we actually have something in common here. It's regarding the data. I mean, the big data and the blockchain. Big data is a kind of a new thing. No, I would say it's not a. It's a kind of a trend that appeared, I would say, a decade ago. No, because since we started using the computing technology that much, storing information, personal information, hyper personalized information regarding the users. I mean, that contains a hell of a lot of memory. So you have to store it somewhere, and you need a transparency, you need a security for it. Are we actually in the phase where we collect the big data and we can actually implement the blockchain, or we're still in the phase where blockchain is only the cloud that we're speaking about, and big data is something that is already used for big companies, for collecting the data of the users, of their clients, to know how it works, how to implement it. How far are we from this thing? Because for me, it's a good, like the actual name of the speaking panel, the phone's labyrinth. It's a good name for it, because it still confuses you, right? You start thinking about these three things and you ask yourself, well, what's the deal? Like, I see three different things, the decentralized identity, I see blockchain as a different thing, and I see big data as a different thing. So how about this? Where are we? Let's say financially, evolutionally, maybe technologically. How far are we from big data and blockchain combined together?
I have to say I'm a little bit a rebel. Whenever in my life somebody did try to make pressure against me, I resisted on that and said, not with pressure you can do anything. And I think on this planet, especially in blockchain, there are a lot of people designed blockchain that we keep our independency, that we keep our freedom, and that we also keep our freedom to choose. And this is, in my opinion, a principle set up in also for the whole blockchain ecosystem, that we allow people to do this and to decide on it. So to decide on it, if I want to give my identity in the system or not, if I want to give certain data to certain platforms or not. And this is something new, because this was not there in the past. In the past, everybody got any data everywhere, and this has been not there. And there are a lot of secret services worldwide who are not happy with that we want to give this choice, because up to now, respectively, if there's any law behind it or not, everybody knows that all this data in the old system goes to everybody, especially to the secret service organizations, whenever they want. Yeah? Germany is one of the biggest targets on that, and they have even laws for it, because the Americans left these laws after the Second World War to secure that. So if you go now for this identity topic, for sure on European Union level, they think about how to identify it, that no terrorists and no criminals are misusing the system. And it's in my full interest that we prevent this. On the other hand, we should have solutions where we can say, I'm either giving my full identity via a digital identity to the blockchain ecosystem, or I just use a provider that he is identifying myself, and that only the data goes to a third party, that I'm existing, that I'm not a political exposed person, that I have not received the money under violating InnMind law, and to give it in the system. And here's a question, who will accept it or not? If a government accepts it, EU accepts it or not? And here I can say, okay, it's good. I would appreciate if you go for an approach that we find a proper solution and that we do it in a transparent way. But if, for example, like certain countries now coming up and say, we want to forbid this, we don't want this, we don't want to bypass it, I say, okay, it's your problem, not my problem, because blockchain is so decentralized and global, we don't need your approval. This is for some governments a very new approach, and they try to do it for sure. But I can go if, for example, here Spain would say we don't allow it anymore. The whole setup. And then I can do a proof of identity from everywhere. I can take a provider in Switzerland and a video approval and to do it. And then even the Spanish guy living in Barcelona has a digital identity and is approved. That the government of Spain is not accepting it, this is only a minor part of the whole game. But for the global development, it does matter, because there's sufficient countries who accept it. And this then leads also to the next question.
All right. Okay.
And I also think that we're near the borderline where and the other side we will have a smart totalitarianism, and the other side we have smart technologies. And we now do not know the future where all this technology can be used, because now the smart cities and people generate billion and billion of data, and is not used by the person, and person has no voice and has no right to determine how my data that I produce can be used. So, and this is a big question, because so government can create a different regulation, and this regulation can violate the basic human rights, as now happens in Spain. You will be surprised. So last month Spain passed the law that can that can take over. So the government of the Spain has the right to take over all services of digital resources, infrastructure, network that may affect on the public security, that can make a problem to the national defense, and there's no any judgment, judicial requirements is needed. So this is so close to Turkey, Russian style, maybe China, but this is Spain. Come on, and it looks terrible, but if people can't create the new thought of their own, or who is the person, or what's right person has person the right to determine the personal data, or a government can violate these rights without any permission from a person, or this is such a complicated case, and we're close to this border where people will have any voice, will have any rights in the future, or just accept the current situation. And that's why digital identity, and especially decentralized digital identity, is so important. So we have different resources. So we have distributed power. We don't allow so the government body create the rules for everybody, and that's really makes sense. And in this case, blockchain, AI, IoT, and other solutions can use in the positive or in negative ways, but it all depends on the people. It all depends on of you, how you create yourself, how you think yourself, how do you think, could you be paid from corporations like Google, Facebook, or etc. for your data or not? So, yeah, I think the question is...
Make just
Yeah,
add
yeah, yeah,
wait,
go ahead.
one for topic. I was for 3 years ago in Iran and visited Iran, and you won't believe that in Iran, where alcohol is strictly forbidden, the consumption of alcohol might be on the same level like in Germany. Yeah? What I want to say with that is, Spain, with this decision, really wants to shut down every company and any activity in digital environment. Yeah? I don't think that this is a decision which is really keeping for long. And even if they would do it, as I said, we are independent enough to bypass it with our methods, because blockchain, and this I could also prove in a separate thing, don't even need a state. Not even more for an entity, yeah, for nothing. We are decentralized. We are everywhere, yeah.
But
So,
I think we're near the border, because state now has a lot of power, and people do not...
what?
Prison,
They can put a law here.
prison, police, it
Yeah.
works more effective than blockchain
But
now, to be
do
honest.
you want to put anybody who is going on a platform in Switzerland and set up there a digital identity into jail here? I think
could be.
it could be hundreds, thousands of people in Spain. They don't have the jails for that thing.
No,
It
no.
has to be. It's a clear signal what they want to say. They want to keep control,
Yes,
like
yes.
the EU did before. There was some guidelines. If you would have approached the German BaFin, which is the supervisory authority
Yeah.
of the banks, 2 years ago, it was clear: blockchain, stay away. We don't want to have it. We don't understand it, and block it. And now 1.5 years later, they realized, yeah, we cannot stop it. And if we
Yes.
cannot stop it,
I
then
agree
it's
with
one
you
thing.
totally.
Yeah, then if you cannot stop it, then you take your as a friend, put a shoulder connection,
Yes.
and find the best way to keep your power. And this they want to do here. They want to have access. And I think this is a balance coming up.
Yes, but the case of the balance is who will control. now it's government, banks, corporations. So now people do not understand their own power to control its personal data, to manage its data, to manage its identity. So people now do not understand how it's priceless and that it's personal data. It's a treasure, and they can monetize it using blockchains, and stuff like that. And so people do not understand it, and that's why during this misunderstanding of the people, so corporations and government take a step ahead, and now during this race they win a little bit, but we want to raise your awareness and think about it.
Okay, take remark about other aspects. I think that if blockchain and other distributed and decentralized systems is internet of the future, then big data is oil for the information society and for the internet of future. Yeah?
Yes.
Yes? Okay.
And the same case, and like in such authoritarian country as Iran or Saudi Arabia or Russia, so they say that oil is the owner of the whole nation, but in fact oil, all the profits from oil gathered just big companies and no others. So the same situation now with data. So data is this all your own this is your this is your own personal stuff. You can use it, you can own it, but now you can't monetize it. This is your personal asset, but you can't have now even no 1 penny from using this data. And now this is the problem. Who has control over the identity, over the big data, and the producer of this data, or like the big corporation, like an agent between you and other persons?
For sure, the governments will not pay for the data of their citizens. This is absolutely true. But the other aspect is so many people really start to realize the value of data. And there, I really expect that a new ecosystem comes up where in a competition, people will do it. If I have to give you my data for free and this guy would pay me for my data, for sure, he would be my friend and not you. So I think this is the origin. If you understand the technology, if you understand what is the the abilities of this technology, then you clearly know where also are the limits of governments, where the limits are of the old age technology, and where the new technology and why the new technology will come up.
Yes, and we think that the future will be that people will understand its power and will going forward to create more active position and more sustainable ecosystem in relationship between government and corporations and societies and human and communities and cities. So I'm quite optimistic about it and hope that mass adoption of blockchain, IoT, AI will be in the mind of everybody in this audience and all over the world, and we will be more profound in our knowledge, in our powers. Yes.
I mean, this is what we're here for, right? We're here to actually make people hear us about, mass adoption and trying to implement a blockchain and AI and, the big data concept. So let's hope for this.
Yeah, to wake up and act.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The first seed has been planted, right? Right here.
I hope so. What
Well.
do you think, guys?
Let's give a round of applause then for our gentlemen. Thank you so much for sharing your opinion with us, guys. Thank you. Thank you.